how big a problem is revenge porn today?
Well, in fact, it's increasingly taking place, partly because, of course, we now have, through social media, the very easy way of taking intimate photographs, because there on our phone is a really very effective and good quality camera. And although this has been sort of, if you like, given the title of revenge porn by the tabloid press, many of the women feel horrified that the word porn is associated with their own conduct, because it's about intimacy. It's about being with somebody that you thought loved you and that you loved, and allowing them to photograph you in positions that you would never have dreamt of making public, but which was about sharing something in private, never imagining that at some point that they would be put into the public domain. And so this sharing of intimate images is becoming much more prevalent because of social media, because of the ways in which, often actually by coercion, women are persuaded to reveal parts of themselves and in positions and in situations which they would never normally do, but they do because they are involved emotionally and in love with the person who does this. And the absence of consent is one of the major issues, because it's a form of rape. It's a way in which someone continues to sexually abuse someone who was their sexual partner. And it's just one of the most horrifying and horrible ways to punish a woman who might leave you. And so it's become something that we're having to address at different stages. I've watched this go through the Parliament, because I'm in the House of Lords, and I've seen that it started basically now, about 2014 really was when we started looking at how this crime could be dealt with. And there was legislation. It's just that women didn't know where they could go with this. But what's shocking me in your account about your friend is that this man is still doing this to your friend, and that he hasn't been prosecuted. And I'd love to know why that is. Why have our prosecuting authorities failed?
I will actually connect you with my friend after the show, if you don't mind, because I think she'd probably appreciate that support. Do you think that threatening revenge porn should become a crime? Because at the moment, if someone goes ahead and does it, there's legislation in place to prosecute. But the threat itself is not necessarily a crime. So if a woman is being, well, not necessarily a woman, it could be a man, but if a victim is being completely harangued and harrowed by somebody that they're going to do this, and thus living in terror every day that this could happen, how do we protect those people? My experience when I went to the police to report this, and when I was on the phone to Belgian police, was, well, what do you expect us to do? I remember lying on a train station platform and just collapsing and not knowing where to go or who to speak to. Do you think it's about time that the threat itself was made more serious in the eyes of the law?
Yes, there's just been a consultation, and the issues were put out for consultation by the government earlier this year, and the final date was at the end of May. And so there's now an analysis being done of the research and of women expressing their views. It went to the public, and women's organisations and individual women were invited to submit their views on this. I feel very strongly that threatening to do this should be a crime as well, because living in fear and in terror that somebody is going to do this to you is as paralysing often as it being done, because you're waiting for it to happen tomorrow. You're looking and waiting to hear from people who are close to you that they've seen photographs of you and film of you. So we really have to deal with the threat as much as the actual doing.
And do you think it needs to be reclassified as a sexual crime? Because at the moment, it's considered a communications crime, but in many respects that means the victims of this crime don't get access to the same sort of services as if they were treated as victims of sexual abuse.
One of the things that that has to be is a covering of anonymity in the way that you do have with sexual offences for those who are victimised in this way. But the other thing is that we really, I mean, women are calling for much better trained specialist units within prosecuting authorities, within the policing of this country that actually can deal with this stuff, which is misogyny. It's about a way of reducing a woman to lesser than the men in our society. It's a way of basically controlling women. And so, you don't have women doing this to men. And so it's one of those ways in which women experience misogyny. Is about hating, is purely about hate. It's not. It's about demeaning and keeping in a lesser position. It's about saying who is boss. It's about control. And so that's what this is. It's a form of misogyny, which is about punishing a woman for daring to be in some way unresponsive any longer to a particular man. And so that's what it's located in. It's located in the idea of punishing and demeaning a woman and reminding of her proper place.
Do you think the big social media platforms are doing enough? I mean, they're all without doubt aware of the problem. And largely, it's not necessarily porn sites that are used for revenge porn. I think people tend to opt for things such as Facebook because that way they can immediately have access to people who directly know and can judge the victim. Do you think the big .com companies have made enough steps to try and stop this from happening?
I really don't believe so. And it's one of the reasons why I think that there has to be a much stronger discussion about regulation and what form it might take. I mean, we've got a legislation about to come to Parliament, which is about online safety and online harms. And this is an online harm. And it's one that is mainly directed towards women and girls. And we really have to address it. And the big companies have to start addressing this stuff. I was in Canada a few years ago, and a woman judge, her husband had done this to her and had exposed photographs of their intimacy, private photographs, and put them online. And, as a result, the woman judge could no longer sit as a judge because it was felt that she ended up having to be on garden leave, as they called it, because they felt that she wouldn't have the respect in the court that is required for someone sitting in a judicial capacity. And so if we're talking about destroying someone, then we really are. And the language that you used in describing the impact of this on women and on your friend is just huge. And it's about that business of making the woman feel ashamed. And shame is part of the way in which women are kept in their place. So, I just wrote a book recently called Eve Was Shamed. And it's about the way in which women are made to feel the shame for the things that are done to them, where they should have no shame whatsoever, because the wrong is being done by the other person.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, I've looked at some of the comments underneath my monologue on Twitter, and it seems to me there are plenty of people out there who seem to think women are silly and should know better. Pretty appalling, frankly. I mean, the legislation to make revenge porn illegal was brought in 2015. But so few prosecutions are happening. And we're finding now that over the past 2 years, the number of cases being handed over to the police has doubled. I mean, the legislation we've got in place doesn't seem very fit for purpose, does it?
It doesn't seem fit for purpose. It's the police are under all manner of pressures, and but if we don't take a firm stance on some of this and get the messaging through, particularly to young men, that this is unacceptable and that they're going to actually be prosecuted and the consequences are serious, then it won't stop. So we do need some good high-profile cases to really make a mark and say this is crime.
Well, thank you for joining me today on this show. I'm definitely trying to shine a light on this issue. It means a lot to me, and I'm so glad you took the time. It's a privilege to talk to you today.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.